coming into a community with a vulnerability as it is can be extremely daunting. But at the same time, it can be inspiring, enabling, and enriching for others as well. I'm here to share a story about how someone with a vulnerability became a lighthouse and a champion for others in terms of academic excellence, as well as a true reflection of good character. Let me share his story. My story is about a student with cerebral palsy. He is paraplegic. His name is Kanchan. I met Kanchan in my previous job in Anglo-Chinese School, Barker Road, a mission school, where I was playing the role of supporting students with special needs and learning difficulties. As it is, Kanchan was under my wing. Kanchan was able to come into Anglo-Chinese School, Barker Road, because in his PSLE, Primary School Living Examination, he did very well. ACS Barker Road, Anglo-Chinese School, Barker Road, is a school of excellence in the sense that it gives equal opportunities to everyone, enabling growth. So for Kanchan, this was a golden opportunity. Prior to coming into a school such as ACS, a boys' school, the support team had to do many areas of planning and implementation. We had to factor many areas so that Kanchan can excel. These areas included: how is his movement planned? What are the potential areas that we need to look out for, such as potential bullying, taunting, so on and so forth. With all of these measures put into place, Kanchan actually entered into the campus, and together with that, we also implemented a buddy system in the classroom. Kanchan was always encouraged to have 2 or 3 buddies so that they can take care of his well-being. But because of his personality, this buddy system of 2 or 3 students eventually became 42 students who took turn. What happened is that Kanchan built such a huge group of friends who were more than willing to be there for Kanchan at any point of time. Support measures also included specialized chairs, access arrangement, lift access, as well as special movement plans so that Kanchan does not have so much of difficulties as he moves around the campus. The campus was a huge environment, so it takes a bit of planning, but all of this enabled Kanchan to be happy. Many of the times, there were differentiation in the assessment criteria and pedagogies so that competencies met in line with Kanchan's abilities. Wherever possible, we differentiated the curriculum, we differentiated assessment measures such that there was always opportunities for Kanchan to demonstrate his strengths. And how did this was shown is that Kanchan always was happy and he always engaged with everyone in his own ways. Kanchan was extremely vulnerable. In a classroom, from one table to the other table, even as he needs to move around, he has to hold on to the edge of the table. That's how fragile he was. Even when accessing to the toilet, he would need to hold on to somebody's hands as he moved on to the toilet. That's how vulnerable he was. But yet, he always had buddies who were willing to support him. So Kanchan felt that he belonged in that community, he felt treasured. How did he always give back to the community? Every year, without fail, Kanchan always was the level topper. Academically, he is so well versed and he was able to give back to the community by also being a peer tutor. Kanchan always spent afternoons in a week staying back and supporting weaker students and teaching them in mathematics and science. So what happened is that he experienced equity and inclusion in this process. As much as he is vulnerable, he was also able to give back because the community allowed this to happen. When Kanchan moved on from the lower secondary years to the upper secondary years, which was in literally like from grade 8 to grade 9, the academic rigor would change most definitely. So the school planned a program in such that every teacher or counselor or school staff will have 3 or 4 students who they will personally coach to check in if they are settling down accordingly. Kanchan chose me to be his mentor. At that point of time, teachers were allowed to explore avenues to do this checking in. So, in that sense, I was exploring art as a medium to use art to check in and as a reflection point for my students to see if they were settling down fine. In the perspective of therapeutic art, you are not judged of what you express. You are allowed to express yourself what you want in whatever means. So Kanchan expressed what you see on the screen. It is an apple tree, no doubt, but if you look at the base of the tree is huge. For a student or for an individual who's paraplegic, who has weakness in the lower limbs, he draws such an expression. Taking a bit of perspective, I asked him this question. At that point of time, you really want to stand on your own, right? Kanchan responded with a subtle smile, which seems to approve my question. It was a catharsis moment for Kanchan because, like what I hypothesized, by him silently smiling and nodding a little bit, it seems to acknowledge that actually that was what he really desired. It was the true core desire, right? Now, moving forward, slightly as he move on in the term, what happened is that one fine day, Kanchan's dad approached me and said, Kanchan has decided to go for a corrective surgery. This was in late October, which was a critical period of time for students who's going to be sitting for a GCE O-level in the following year. Kanchan's dad approached to me and said, Kanchan has decided to go for a corrective surgery. He's going to go for a surgery that would allow him to have a little bit of mobility. I was puzzled. This surgery was not a need. So I asked his dad the question, why is he choosing to go for a surgery at this point of time? Especially when there were so many things that he needs to manage. Languages, orals, listening compre, which is a national exam process, was going to happen, but why did he choose to do then? Kanchan's dad said, if he's not going to do it now, he feels that he might not even do it much later. So I ensured his dad that let him go for his surgery. We will put in the appropriate measures so that he can catch up much quickly on whatever he has left off. At this point of time, I would like to ask a question, or I'd like you to think about a question in terms of Kanchan's decision. Why did a boy choose to do or take an extreme measure as such during one of the most critical time in his academic journey? He could have done it much later, but why then? Think about it. Kanchan came back in February the following year in a wheelchair. He had cast and his leg was stretched 180 degrees. It was a painful process and he always had to be in a wheelchair for a period of time as he goes through therapy. So we placed all the measures, enhanced the body support, give him a specialized table so that he can pursue his studies. Everything was going fine, and I was continuing on with the support in my own ways, with the teachers as well. I'm also the staff who actually supports students with access arrangement. I'm collaborating with the Singapore Examination Board together with a team such that we are coordinating access arrangement in the national exams. So my role was to collate documents. Kanchan was a student who also had access arrangement. And in late July in that year, I am collating the documents and preparing each individual student's docket. I was seated in my room, and my room has no windows except for a small little panel on the door. I heard a knock, but I could not see who was behind the door. I went to the door, I opened the door, and there was Kanchan standing. He gave me this document. Mr. Viknesh, this is the document for my access arrangement application. I took the document and I asked him this question. You came alone? He said, I can manage on my own now. At that point of time, my hair is standing. Same thing. There were tears dropping down, but I didn't show that. Because here is a boy who came to the school with such a vulnerability, who depended on his peer support quite extensively. And here he is standing all alone, with his two legs, fragile but yet strong. That was a moment that I realized how powerful can an experience be. Kanchan, I accompanied him back to his classroom, and he was walking all alone, holding on here and there, but on his own. It was a milestone moment for me, as much as it's for Kanchan. Moving forward, Kanchan did well in his O-levels, moved on, and in 2020, he graduated in flying colors with a degree in economics. I still keep in touch with him. Now, I asked this question earlier on. Why did a student decided to do such a major operation at a point which was most crucial to his academic journey? DeLeon Gray actually mentions that if a student has a strong feelings or sense of belonging in his academic environment, it will lead to powerful outcomes and it will motivate him or her in many ways. For Kanchan, the power of the community, the power of belonging that he felt in the community was the reason that he took such a powerful decision to go for a surgery, but the outcome was extraordinary. As it is, what I would like to share or encourage this community to think about is, how do you enhance this concept, this sense, this authentic feeling of what belonging is? The secret is never in the big picture. The secret is in the small little things that you do for another. That builds the sense of belonging. As such, it did for Kanchan, who stands like a pillar. As such, everyone here stands like a pillar in your journey if you find your sense of belonging. Thank you.